I'm Harlow, and I thought I'd finally made it. Seattle's skylines sparkled outside my office window, a reminder of every late night and every deal I'd clawed my way through to get here. Real estate development isn't for the faint of heart. Million-dollar contracts, clients who think they're smarter than you, and a constant grind to stay ahead. I was good at it, though. Good enough to close a $15 million deal for a waterfront property just last week. But success doesn't shield you from betrayal. Not when it comes from the one person you're supposed to trust most. It was one of those mornings where the coffee wasn't strong enough, and my inbox was a war zone. My phone buzzed with a bank notification, something about unusual activity, but I was neck-deep in spreadsheets and barely glanced at it. Big mistake. Later, after my third call with a pushy client, I checked my accounts. My heart stopped. 0. Every account, checking, savings, the emergency fund I'd built for years, was wiped clean. My hand shook as I scrolled through transactions I didn't recognize. First-class flights to Paris, bookings at luxury hotels in London, charges at boutiques I'd never heard of. I knew who did this before I even finished scrolling. Lila. My mom. I hadn't trusted her in years. Growing up, it was always something. Her business ventures that went nowhere, promises of stability that ended in eviction notices. My grandmother was the one who kept me grounded, paying for my first semester at the University of Washington when Lila tried to derail it, telling me college was a waste. But lately, Lila had seemed different. She'd been calling, showing up with coffee, acting like she wanted to rebuild. I let my guard down, thinking maybe, just maybe, she'd changed. Now, staring at my empty accounts, I felt like an idiot. Harlow, you okay? Jada's voice pulled me back. She leaned against my cubicle, her sharp eyes catching the panic I couldn't hide. I held up my phone, my voice barely steady. She cleaned me out, Jada. Every cent. Her jaw dropped. Lila? How? I swallowed, my throat tight. That stupid joint account from college. I never closed it. Jada pulled up a chair, her voice firm. Call her. Now. I dialed, my hands trembling. 1 ring, 2, then voicemail. I tried again. Nothing. My pulse raced, a mix of fear and fury. I have to go home, I said, grabbing my keys. The drive to my apartment was a blur, my mind spinning. How could she do this? I'd let her back in, believed her apologies, her tears. When I pulled into my complex, I noticed her car was gone. The apartment felt too quiet, too normal, like nothing had happened. Then I saw it, a letter on the kitchen counter, her handwriting neat and deliberate. Dearest Harlow, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. I needed a fresh start, somewhere new. I'm sorry, but you'll understand one day. Love, Lila. The paper crumpled in my fist. Understand? She'd stolen everything I'd worked for, and left me with this? A scream tore out of me, raw and jagged, echoing in the empty space. I sank to the floor, the letter still clutched in my hand, my chest tight with betrayal. She'd planned this, played me like always, and I'd fallen for it. My phone buzzed, snapping me out of the fog. A number I didn't recognize. Hello, is this Harlow? The voice was calm, professional. I gripped the counter, steadying myself. Yes, who's this? Daniel, your grandmother's attorney. I've been trying to reach you. My stomach twisted. My grandmother. The one person who'd always had my back, who'd taught me to fight for what mattered. What's this about? I asked, my voice shaking. I'm sorry, Harlow. She passed away last week. The room spun. My grandmother, gone? The woman who'd built a chain of boutique inns along the Washington coast, who'd paid for my education when Lila tried to sabotage it, who'd told me I was stronger than I knew. I couldn't process it. Daniel kept talking, something about her will, a meeting, but it was like static in my ears. I was still reeling when the door opened, and Stephen walked in, his face soft with concern. Jada called me, he said, kneeling beside me. Thought you might need a friend. I let out a shaky breath. She took everything, Stephen. Lila. And now my grandmother's gone. He sat beside me, his shoulder brushing mine, steady like always. Your grandma always said no one could steal your fire. Not even Lila. I nodded, wiping my eyes. She believed in me. Always had. Later, at Daniel's office in downtown Seattle, the air felt heavy, the kind of warmth that makes you claustrophobic. I sat in a leather chair, hands clasped, while Jada squeezed my hand under the table. I'd asked her to come. I couldn't face this alone. Daniel adjusted his glasses, his voice gentle. Your grandmother wasn't just a client, Harlow. She was a friend. She spoke of you constantly. I swallowed hard. I can't believe she's gone. He slid a thick envelope across the desk. She left you everything. The ins, worth about $15 million, her investments, properties, all of it. My breath caught. 15 million? Jada's grip tightened. And Lila? I asked, dreading the answer. Daniel's face hardened. Your grandmother was clear. Lila gets nothing. She said, and I quote, my daughter's taken enough. A shaky laugh escaped me. Lila would lose it when she heard. She already knows, Daniel said. She's been calling from Europe, threatening to contest the will. Of course she was. Then he pulled out an old leather journal, worn soft from years of use. She wanted you to have this in private. I opened it to a marked page, my grandmother's familiar scrawl filling the lines. My dearest Harlow, if you're reading this, I'm gone. You've grown into a woman stronger than your mother's shadow. This money isn't just wealth, it's freedom. Use it wisely. And remember, a snake will always show its fangs. Let it think it's winning, then watch it fall. All my love, your grandmother. Tears blurred the words. She'd known. Somehow, she'd known Lila would try something like this. Jada leaned in, reading over my shoulder. She was one smart woman, she whispered. I nodded, clutching the journal. A plan was forming, sharp and dangerous. Lila thought she'd won. She had no idea what was coming. I stood in the doorway of my grandmother's penthouse, the Seattle skyline glittering through the floor-to-ceiling windows. This place had always been her sanctuary, a space Lila was never allowed to touch. Now it was the perfect stage for her downfall. She's going to eat this up, Jada said, her eyes gleaming as we surveyed the master bedroom. Plush velvet bedding, a gleaming mahogany desk, a closet stuffed with designer clothes. Every detail screamed wealth. And every inch was rigged. Steven, my tech-savvy friend from college, had outdone himself. Hidden cameras were tucked into the chandelier, the bookshelves, even the ornate mirror above the vanity. The safe in the closet held fake jewelry, sparkling enough to fool anyone with greed in their eyes. The laptop on the desk was loaded with forged documents, property deeds for non-existent ins, investment portfolios that looked real but led nowhere. She touches anything, we'll know, Steven said, dropping a stack of fake contracts on the desk. These are airtight. She'll think she's hit the jackpot. I ran my fingers over the journal my grandmother left me, her words echoing. Let it think it's winning. We let her believe I'm sharing the inheritance, I said, my voice steady despite the knot in my chest. She'll come running. Jada grinned. And walk right into her own trap. The plan was simple but bold. I'd sent Lila an email, vague but tempting. I'm thinking about the will. Maybe we can work something out. She took the bait, booking a flight from Paris that same night. Steven's software pinged when she landed at Seattle-Tacoma Airport. Showtime, Jada said, checking her phone. Steven was already at the airport, holding a sign with Lila's name, playing the part of a dutiful driver. I watched the live feed from my office, my heart pounding as Lila stepped off the plane, her designer sunglasses and fake humility in full display. Where's Harlow? She asked Steven, her voice dripping with false warmth. Busy with the ins, he replied smoothly. She sent me to get you. As they drove to the penthouse, I saw her eyes darting, taking in every detail, already calculating. When she stepped into the master bedroom, her face lit up like she'd won the lottery. She's in, I whispered, watching her run her hands over the velvet, linger by the safe, and eye the laptop. Jada leaned over my shoulder, her voice low. She's already planning her next move. Sure enough, Lila opened the laptop, her eyes widening at the fake documents. She snapped photos, her fingers moving fast, like a kid stealing candy. I felt a mix of anger and satisfaction. She thought she was playing me. She had no idea I was playing her. The emerald wave was buzzing, Seattle's elite sipping cocktails under soft lighting. I spotted Lila at a corner table, dressed in a tailored blazer, her smile as polished as the fake contracts she waved at 3 investors. Greg, her old partner in crime, nodded along, playing the loyal sidekick. I sat at the bar with Jada, my heart racing but my face calm. Her phone was propped up, discreetly recording every word. "She's promising them exclusive stakes in the inns," Jada whispered, sipping her martini. 20% returns, no risk. Classic Lila. Same lies, new stage. My phone buzzed. Steven, our tech guy, confirming Lila had emailed the fake contracts to another contact. "We blocked it," he texted. "She's all in." I nodded to Jada. Time to move. She tapped her phone, triggering a fake call from First Coastal Bank's fraud department. Across the room, Lila's phone rang. She excused herself, her confident smile faltering as she answered. Jada, using a voice changer, played the part perfectly, rattling off warnings about suspicious activity. Lila's face went pale, her voice low and frantic as she hung up. I straightened my jacket and walked to her table, my heels clicking on the hardwood. "Lila," I said loudly, making her freeze. "Fancy running into you here." The investors turned, curious. Lila forced a smile, her eyes darting. "Harlow, what are you doing here?" "Oh, just thinking about business," I said, sliding into a chair. I picked up one of her fake contracts, holding it up. "Like these." The investors frowned. "You know about these deals?" one asked, his voice sharp. I smiled, locking eyes with Lila. "Oh, I know all about them." Amazing, really, how someone can whip up fake deeds for ends that don't exist, using numbers that don't add up. The table went silent. I tapped my phone, pulling up the security footage from the penthouse. There was Lila sneaking photos of the documents, trying the safe's code. The investors' faces darkened. "This is a scam?" One snapped, tossing the papers down. Lila stammered, "Harlow, you're confused." "No." I cut in, my voice cold. "You taught me how to spot a con." The investor stood, chair scraping, and stormed out. Greg tried to slip away, but Jada blocked him, her glare fierce. Lila's mask cracked, her voice shaking. "Why would you do this to me?" I leaned in, my eyes steady. "Because you did it to yourself." The restaurant's hum faded as I stood, leaving her in the wreckage of her lies. For the first time, I felt free. Lila sat across from me in my office, her shoulders slumped, no trace of the polished con artist who'd walked back into my life days ago. Her designer clothes were gone, replaced by a plain sweater, her face bare of its usual charm. "You set me up," she whispered, her voice hollow. I leaned back, hands folded.
"No, Lila."
"I just let you show who you are." Her hands clenched in her lap. "I was going to pay you back," she said, the same tired excuse I'd heard my whole life. I shook my head. "You always say that, but you never do. You take, you lie, and you leave." Her eyes filled with tears, real ones, maybe, but I'd seen her crocodile tears too many times to care. "I'm still your mother," she said, her voice breaking. I looked at her, the woman who'd used me as a pawn, who'd stolen everything I'd built. "I know," I said softly. "That's why I'm giving you a chance." I slid an envelope across the desk. A one-way ticket to Tillamook, Oregon. Small town, quiet. A waitressing job at a diner, an apartment, and enough cash for 7 months. No scams, no shortcuts. A real life. She stared at the ticket, her fingers trembling. "And if I don't take it?" I placed a second folder beside it. "This goes to the police. Every scam, every lie, every person you hurt. I press charges, you lose everything." Silence hung between us. She looked at the ticket, then at me. "You think I can change?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "That's on you." She let out a bitter laugh, but her hands closed around the ticket. Steven appeared at the door, his eyes asking if I was okay. I nodded. Lila stood, clutching the envelope. You're really sending me away. You sent yourself, I said. She paused at the door, her voice soft. You're your grandmother's granddaughter. I met her gaze. She'd be proud. The door closed behind her and I finally exhaled. Months later, I poured myself into the ins, making sure my grandmother's legacy stood for something good. I started a restitution fund with the profits, sending quiet payments to families Lila had conned. It wasn't enough, but it was a start. Jada sat across from me one evening, sipping wine. You're doing a big thing, she said. I shrugged. It's what she'd want. One cold morning, I found myself outside a diner in Tillamook, staring through the frosted window. Lila was inside, refilling coffee cups, her hair plain, her nails undone. She looked real. Stephen sat beside me in the car. You sure you want to do this? I nodded. I have to. The bell jingled as I stepped inside. Lila froze, sugar packets in hand. We're closing soon, she said, then turned and saw me. Harlow. I sat at the counter. Coffee black. Her hands shook as she poured. I slid an envelope across the counter. Inside was my grandmother's silver locket, its intricate design catching the light. Why? She whispered, her voice thick. Because change starts somewhere, I said. Her eyes filled with tears, and she reached for me, but stopped. I stood, my chest tight but lighter than it had been in years. Will I see you again? She asked. I looked at her, holding the locket, finally seeing herself. Maybe, I said and walked out. To everyone who's followed this journey, thank you. You've walked with me through betrayal, heartbreak, and standing tall. If this story hit you, hit that subscribe button and join us, where every fight, every tear, and every victory tells a story of grit, heart, and starting over. Keep chasing your own truth, and I'll meet you on the other side.